Okay, from my 20 years of research, it seems like we are in some kind of simulated reality, and I believe the majority of these UFOs and beings, the Greys, and all that are interdimensional, also interplanetary beings. These beings seem to be part of what we call the afterlife, or the between, the astral realm. They handle souls and they seem to be assisting some souls even in the physical. Looking at pre-birth experiences, it seems like most souls, if not all, are seduced or forced or manipulated to go here, and reincarnation is real, or at least we are led to believe by the beings. The soul often feels anxiety and fear, even on the other side, just knowing it's going back to this place. It's very possible that we are in some kind of trap, soul trap, reincarnation trap, if you like. That could be the main reason why it's so much deception and resistance when it comes to the UFO phenomenon. If you go deep into pre-birth experiences, and I'm not talking about the ones where they only remember choosing the parents, but it's often a place where other beings are around you and they are in full control of your plan to go here, and you can't really say no. Maybe you have some options here and there, but it's pretty much pre-planned for you. Many souls have tried to say no, but no prevail. You don't really have a saying in this. Sometimes you are in a place called the viewing room, where you see the Earth through some window or something, or from a higher viewing point. Very often from a higher viewing point you see the Earth. If you are forced back from NDEs, it says something about our free will as souls. It's not so far-fetched that if you are forced back here from NDEs, even if you beg to stay, that we might also be forced to reincarnate here, even if we beg not to go. Of course, I hope it's a loving school. I did for many years. But we have many planets in this universe, and it seems a bit strange that we have to reincarnate on this pinprick of a planet again and again to learn and grow. And most of us lose all memory going back to Earth. It's only small fragments that some people remember. Anyway, we are bound to make mistakes every time. So, what do we make of this? We have to ask questions. We have to raise more questions. We have to, But I'm going to be uploading way more about this because I'm only touching the surface of what I'm into here. It could, of course, be a different group of Greys or beings that have a different agenda and or a more positive agenda. It's hard to say, but we have to look at the fact that these beings have probably been here for a long, long time, maybe from the beginning. And I think it's hard to believe that they came here for the first time in 1947 Roswell. So I only think it's fair to ask the question, what are they up to? And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to ask the questions.
As a young teenager, she was inside of some kind of a craft or a round room. And what happens in very summarized for the radio broadcast tonight is that a praying mantis-looking creature, 8 foot tall, which does come up in lots of abductions, even if you don't hear about it much, appears, and at first she was terrified, and the tall praying mantis put into her mind a sense of deep sadness about her and all humans, and it was accompanied by a sense that this praying mantis was so ancient that it could be as old as our solar system, as incomprehensible as that is, and that these praying mantis are made, programmed to monitor the evolution of life in entire solar systems. We're getting into the world of Michio Kaku's theorizing about very advanced civilizations having this ability.
Yes.
And that when humans are in the presence of the praying mantis, the praying mantis has the ability to calm the human's natural fear of the way they look. And what he did next, he took the young teenage Linda Porter to a round, small container, almost like a small room, and showed her all of this dense, yellow, sparkly light inside of it. And then, as if saying, this is one piece of what you need to understand, he walked her into a room nearby and said, watch. And now it's a gray type entity. We can get into the distinctions of gray androids that are robots and prime intelligence grays, and that there are all kinds. And now what she's seeing is what I would call more the prime intelligence in the gray category. They have vertical snake eyes. They have gray pebbly skin. Usually it looks slightly reptilian, and they are quite different from the 3-foot tall, we'll call them androids, that have the big black eyes and the pear-shaped heads and the little bodies. There's a big difference. So now she's in the presence of what appears to be a prime intelligence gray who walks over to a bed-like apparatus upon which there is lying a male human, and the gray reaches down, and Linda even asked me, could this be possible? Are they doing this in front of me like a hologram? Because this is what occurs. The gray's long 4 fingers just seem to pass through the man's chest. And out of the man's chest, the gray being comes up holding the man's heart and shows it, no blood, totally dry, shows it to Linda Porter, and she gets telepathic thoughts like this. It is important that the entity, and she gets the symbol or gets communication that when they say entity, they are meaning soul, spirit, the animus of life. That the man's entity and this particular container of the man's body, it's important that the soul remain inside of such a container for a longer period of time than the man's body is willing to give, because the man is dying of heart disease. And the gray communicates that they are letting this version of the man die, but over in a tube. And when there's a gesture, now she sees that there are these tubes that have various people in them. And one she recognizes in the tube, that has light above and light below, is a man who looks a little bit younger than the man on the table. And the gray being communicates telepathically to her, because it is important for the soul spirit, but he uses the word entity, to stay inside of this type of container. We are going to revivify him in this cloned body, in this tube that we can preserve and control. And we are going to put him in Australia, and in his home in the United States, he will die.
Covina, California, 1963. In this small farming town on the outskirts of Los Angeles, 17-year-old Linda Porter awakens to find herself aboard a strange craft. From what she is able to recall later under hypnosis, a small creature that appeared to be a gray alien led her towards a light-filled room where she encountered another type of being, one much taller and with the features of a praying mantis.
very standalone, very odd case. The fact that this occurred in 1963 is very intriguing because it's before the abduction phenomenon became popularized.
There have been depictions throughout various abduction scenarios that include the gray aliens and this larger, tall insectoid being, very praying mantis-like.
Linda Porter claims that throughout her teens and 20s, she experienced numerous other encounters with these alien beings. But it wasn't until the age of 45 that she finally reached out to investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe to tell her story.
I received a letter carefully written from Linda Porter. This led up to her sending me a whole lot of drawings.
These drawings appear in Linda Moulton Howe's book, Glimpses of Other Realities.
One of the drawings was of a praying mantis about 8 feet tall in a room that was very odd, had a cylindrical object and sparkles of light.
There have been quite a number of different types of aliens seen, allegedly by contactees. But the ones that are really peculiar and very rare are these very scary, skinny, large, basically intelligent insects that have been reported.
People have drawn parallels between the aliens that are reported on board UFOs and insects, particularly bees. The Greys, for instance, could be equated in some way to the drone or the worker bee. The so-called praying mantis type could be seen perhaps as the queen bee. Larger than the others, more intelligent, they're taller than a person, 8 or even 9 feet tall. And the gray aliens may handle the person who's being abducted, but in the background, there's this praying mantis type that seems to be calling the shots.
According to Porter, she is part of a larger experiment, one in which these aliens appear concerned with her soul.
She said, whatever we humans are, we have an animus, a soul, that is mysterious to them. And they are trying to find out, where does the soul spirit go at the moment of death? And that the non-humans were studying the recycling of the souls in and out of containers.
She talked about being shown 3 cylinders. Contained in each cylinder was a human being in kind of like a state of suspended animation.
Linda Porter came away from her 2 or 3 decades of interaction with these non-humans, including the at first terrifying praying mantis, that these are extraterrestrial biological entities that have taken a deep interest in the evolution of life forms here, that they have manipulated DNA in already evolving primates, that they have created a whole series of different models.
Might the numerous accounts of mantis-like beings reported by alleged alien abduction victims, along with the ancient San story of a praying mantis god, be evidence that an otherworldly race of insectoids really does exist?